Hey guys, welcome to the video. Salt here. Today we're going to be going over the new melee weapon, the Amanata. Now in this weapon series, I take a weapon, I build it out, and I test that weapon on its own merits, meaning I don't mix it with any kind of external factors that would increase weapon performance. That would be things like Warframe's using abilities, pets putting statuses on enemies, things like that. I just test the weapon built out by itself, and I let the viewer make their own intelligent conclusions about adding those external things. Now, the only difference is when I do a melee video, I do add one external, and that is a pet putting statuses on enemies for me. And it's because almost all melee weapons in the game, minus a few, are going to use a mod called Condition Overload. And Condition Overload requires you to be priming for it to work appropriately. And for me to show a melee build without Condition Overload actually functioning would be a little bit disingenuous. So that's why I add that one external. So the Amanata is what we're looking at today. It is the new weapon that came out with Kumai. I don't know how to say that exactly, but that's why we're doing it. We have the top commenter of the last video, HeyGrass976, and the first commenter of the last video, Project Sunny309. If we come over here, we also have our recent supporter, Eddie. So greatly appreciate it, Eddie. Thank you so much. Okay, so the Amanata is a weapon that came out with Kumai. Looks pretty cool. A nice looking weapon there. The same theme as the rifle. We did the rifle video earlier this morning. So same kind of theme as the rifle with the little what are these? These little doohickeys that are hanging off of it. They kind of remind me of those Zaw doohickeys. Maybe they're supposed to look like the Zaw things because, you know, it's kind of from Cetus. Maybe. I don't know. All right. So let's look at the build here. And first we want to go over unique and interesting things about the Amanata. And for once, the wiki is incorrect and the game is correct. So if we look at the unique trait here, it says with every 30 hits from the Amanata, you receive a blessing. The wiki says every 30 swings. You actually have to hit something for it to count down. So every 30 hits, you are going to roll a dice, and depending on what you get in your dice roll is the buff you get. So if you roll a 1, you get 40% final critical chance. If you roll a 2, it's 30% final status chance. 3 is 30% final status damage. 4 is +1 range. 5 is +20% attack speed. And if you roll a 6, you get all of the blessings at once. Now, for anyone that doesn't know what final means with like final critical and final status and stuff, final is just added at the end of all the equations. So, you know, let's say your weapon had a base of 10% critical chance. You had a mod on your weapon that gave it another plus 200%. So that would give it an extra plus 20. So 20 plus the 10 would equal 30. And then let's say you had something that gave it 30, or this, let's just say this one, 40 final critical chance. Well, it would be the 40% plus the ending result with all the mods of 30, which would be 70%. So final is just a number that gets plopped on top of everything once it's calculated. It doesn't actually get factored into any of like the multiplicative equation, which is sometimes extremely valuable, especially if the weapon is low in that stat, or it's good, but it's just like a little bit extra if the weapon's already high in that stat, right? If you have like plus 50 final critical on a weapon that's going to have like 350% critical chance after modding, it's just 50 plus 350, which is not that significant. Whereas if the weapon only got to 50% after modding, you add another 50 and it's like you're doubling it. So sometimes final critical or final status chance, whatever it is, sometimes it's more or less useful depending. But it's a really cool, unique ability that the Amanata has here. I really like this. Okay, and that's pretty much it for the unique things about this weapon. So we can go over a few things. Well, actually, one of the unique things that I didn't go over was the special augment this has. And if you notice, it's not on the weapon. Oof, what does that mean? So it's called Amanata Pressure. When your combo multiplier reaches 8 times, heavy attacks apply a random status effect to enemies hit. That's okay, but it's not amazing. It's just kind of a, it's a thing. Okay, so what is the actual thing? What is the actual useful thing on this? Well, the useful thing on this mod is the plus 330% melee damage. So it's flat damage, 330 flat damage. So Amanata Pressure is competing against Condition Overload, because Condition Overload is also flat damage. And if you guys are interested, I have a slide here that I'm going to bring up. It's a very high-tech slide. Are you guys ready? Here we go. This is Condition Overload versus Amanata Pressure. So on a melee build, you're going to be priming. Sometimes you're going to do that yourself. Maybe you're running around with a epitaph. Sometimes you're priming in different ways, right? On my videos, I do it in the most brain-dead way, which is just using a Dirija pet to prime for me. I don't even have to think about it. My pet does it for me. And consistently, the Dirija applies 6 to 8 statuses. It's always 6 statuses, and sometimes if he gets lucky on a few things, it's 7 or 8 statuses. So with, let's just say, only 6 statuses applied, that's 480% flat damage. And then if he gets lucky and he gets 8 statuses applied, that's 640% flat damage. And this is only the Dirija. If I'm producing my own unique statuses, that's going to also be taken into effect. So Condition Overload is very, very powerful. Even in the most brain-dead way with just using Dirija to put like 6 to 8 statuses, that's a lot of flat damage. And we compare that to Amanata Pressure at 330. Ugh. Not very good. Not very good when we compare it there. And, my conclusion, my intellectual conclusion at the end of this was that bigger number equals betterer damage, of course. So there are situations where Dirija goes down, right? Dirija will get taken down, and now you don't have the priming from him. But because of the bond mods, he gets up so quickly. He's not down that for that long. He also doesn't go down that often. So, you could make the case that Amanata Pressure would work all the time, even when the Dirija goes down, but he's just not down that often or for that long for it to really do anything meaningful. So, okay, let's go back to the gameplay here. So for that reason, we're not having that new mod on the Amanata build. Now, I'm going to play a little bit of devil's advocate because I kind of want to just make a case that maybe sometimes on some very specific builds or very specific playstyles, you could get value out of Amanata Pressure. And that's going to be on a not melee focused build. Like you're focusing more on range and you're only going to switch to melee if, let's say, Mania comes out, right? Mania has the turbulent shield. You can't shoot through his shield, so you have to melee him down. And in that case, you're probably not running around with a melee primer because you were intending to go in with a ranged build. And so in that specific situation, Amanata Pressure would be better than Condition Overload because you're probably not going to have a priming pet like putting a crap load of statuses on things. So that's my little case I make for Amanata Pressure. But for a melee-specific build where you actually are going in there intending to prime stuff, Condition Overload is going to beat Amanata Pressure all day long. All right. And then the other unique thing that I wanted to go over, just because it's also brand new, is the galvanized mods. Only one of them actually makes it on this specific build. I think the other ones are good, but they're going to be for other types of melee weapons that this one is not. But galvanized steel does make it on this build. So this is 110% critical chance and 120% critical damage. Now, this is taking the place of what we would normally put in this slot, which is sacrificial steel. So sacrificial steel was 220 crit chance, and galvanized steel is 110 crit chance. So half the crit chance. We're losing 110 crit chance, but we're gaining 120% crit damage. Normally, if you look at crit chance and crit damage is slightly more valuable than crit chance. So because we're getting pretty much the same, amount back, we're losing 110, but we're getting 120, and the 120 we're getting is crit damage, which is usually a little bit more valuable. This is a net positive for our build. It's not a gigantic net positive because we are losing that 110 crit chance, but it's a net positive because crit damage is typically more important. So Galvanized Steel does make that on this build. And it also, this is just like a little rant I'm going to go on here. I think maybe because Galvanized Steel is going to be making it onto builds now, I feel like DE is trying to make Melee Duplicate like come more into the scene. I feel like they wanted Melee Duplicate to be important, and that's why it was so rare, but then people weren't using it because it's extremely niche. So for them, like slightly reducing everyone's crit chance, maybe they're trying to make Melee Duplicate come more on the scene. I still don't think it's going to beat Melee Influence, though, unfortunately. Okay, so I think we're finally done with the new stuff in the game. So let's go over the mods now for the Amanata build here. We have Voltaic Strike. This is going to be the 60/60 electric. We're using this. I'm going to skip ahead a bit because we are using it to activate Melee Influence. On a melee electricity status, 20% chance for elemental melee status effects to apply to enemies within a 20-meter radius for 18 seconds. This is extremely powerful. There's pretty much no other arcanes that can beat it. Well, there's like situational arcanes. There are some arcanes that are like when you have shields or overshields. For very specific Warframes, they could possibly beat Influence. But for your normal melee build, no, this is going to be the best one here. Galvanized Steel, we're going to be using for crit chance and crit damage. Organ Shatter is for crit damage. Gladiator Might is for crit damage and 120% crit chance. Condition Overload is for flat damage. Berserker Fury is for 70% attack speed. Attack speed and range are important on this build because the more you hit, or the more things you can hit, the more you can roll these dice. So sometimes in the attack speed slot that we use, instead of Berserker Fury, sometimes we use Gladiator Vice, which instead of 70% attack speed from Fury is 30. So you lose a lot of attack speed, but you gain 120% critical chance, I should say. But for this weapon specifically, I feel like Berserker Fury is just more valuable because you want to be hitting more often to get those dice rolls. Also, this has just like average attack speed, so I don't want to go down to just a 30% attack speed mod. I feel like Berserker Fury is just too valuable there. And then in the last two slots, we have our stacking with combo multiplier. So we have Blood Rush and Weeping Wounds. These are going to be, I should have checked this before I did this. It's either 440 or 480. So 440% crit chance stacking with combo multiplier, or 440% status chance stacking with combo multiplier. So this is a gigantic critical chance and a gigantic status chance increase. All right. In the two slots up top, we have the stances. All of the stances are good. All of the stances have things that are good about them. They all have a combo that has a forced slash proc, and that's Shimmering Blight, Bleeding Willow, and Twirling Spire. I'll go over the stances after the mods. So it's going to be up to you. Bleeding Willow and Twirling Spire start with the right polarity that the weapon has. Shimmering Blight, as you see, does not. I like Shimmering Blight the best myself, so I'm going to play with it. But the other ones are completely fine. I'll tell you which combos have the force slash proc on them when we go to the simulacrum to show that off. Okay, in the Exilus slot here, you have two options. You have Dreamer's Wrath, and you have Disciple's Merit. So, your Dreamer's Wrath is going to give you Tennokai more often, and the Tennokais you do get are going to have increased critical damage. Disciple's Merit is going to also give you Tennokai more often, in fact, even more than Dreamer's Wrath, and they're not random. They're going to be after every 4 hits. So more consistent and more often, just not with the critical damage buff. That's completely up to you. I personally like Dreamer's Wrath most of the time, unless the weapon has something I really want to press, like every 2 seconds, because you will get your Tennokai like every 2 seconds with Disciple's Merit. So if like the weapon has like a 360 heavy attack, I'll usually pick like Disciple's Merit. This one doesn't. It's more of like a little slash forward. So for that reason, personally, I'm going to pick Dreamer's Wrath, but Disciple's Merit's still perfectly fine on here. Okay, and then the Arcane we went over already, it's melee influence. So we're going to go to the Simulacrum next here, and we're going to show off those stances and how they look and what they do. You can pick any of the stances, though.
You are a true hunter. Where would the sanctuary be without you?
We're going to start with Shimmering Blight is the one I have on right now. This is the one that does not have the correct polarity to what the weapon starts with, unfortunately. So if you're a little bit hard up on Forma, you might not want to pick Shimmering Blight. But we'll start with this. So we're going to start with the forward light. So moving forward and holding E. That's pretty much it. We'll do the neutral light. So not moving forward and holding E. Pretty much the same thing, just without any movement. Okay, we're going to do the forward block. This is the one that has a forced slash proc. So when I do the gameplay, I'll be using this one because this one does good DPS and it has a force slash proc. So this is blocking, moving forward, and holding E. And it has a lot of 360 too. I like the twirlies, so that means it like hits everything around you. So I really like this one. All right, enough of that. And then the neutral block. So blocking, not moving forward, and holding E. Yeah, it looks like the same thing as the neutral light. I think it is the same thing. Okay. So that was Shimmering Blight. Let's go ahead and put Twirling Spire on next. All right, Twirling Spire, we're going to start with the forward light. I like the moveset on this. It's just unfortunate that this is not the one that has the force slash, and it's also not the highest DPS one on this build, or on this combo. Okay, now we're going to do the neutral light. The neutral light is the one that has the forced slash, but it doesn't have the highest of the DPS out of all of them. So, not moving forward. I don't really like this one. It's too stabby for me. There's not a lot of like attacks that hit multiple targets around you. All right, now we have the forward block. So blocking, moving forward, and holding E. I'm not a big fan of this one either. The slam is nice, but everything else about it I don't like. And then we have the neutral block. So blocking, not moving forward, and holding E. This is the highest DPS out of the Twirling Spire set. And in fact, I think this is the highest DPS out of all of the movesets, the Shimmering Blight, Twirling Spire, and Bleeding Willow. It just does not have a forced slash, unfortunately. It's a pretty good one, though. It's twirly. It does end in a stab, which I don't like, because that's like a single enemy hit almost. All right. So again, for this one, the forced slash was on the neutral light, which is this one I really don't like here. So I feel like Twirling Spire is probably the worst. Unless you want to do the neutral block. It just doesn't have a forced slash. Okay, let's do Bleeding Willow next. So we're going to start with the forward light. Very similar to the other moveset, actually. I think of Shimmering Light. Okay, we're going to do the neutral light. So not moving forward and holding E. Same thing. Pretty much the same as the Shimmering Light, too. Okay, and now the forward block. This is the one that's going to have the force slash. It's pretty cool. It's just there's a couple of stabs in there that's only going to hit like one or two dudes, and I don't really like that. So like out of Bleeding Willow and Shimmering Blight, they're both the forward blocks that produce the force slash. I like the Shimmering Blight best. But let's finish by showing off the neutral block of this one. Same thing, yeah, same thing as the Shimmering Blight. So the really only difference there is their forward blocks, and I did like Shimmering Blight better. So personally, I'm going to go with Shimmering Blight. You could pick any of those three, though. Just know the moveset you're actually doing and what it produces, if it produces a force slash or not. All right, let's go back to Orbiter here. And what we'll do next, I'm looking at my little paper away that has all the movesets. I didn't want to forget them, so I wrote them all down. So what we'll do now is we'll show this in gameplay, in Steel Path gameplay. I'm going to be using a Inaros with no Archon shards that increase weapon performance, no mods or arcanes on the Inaros that increase weapon performance, and with a pet with a primer pet. This is the external that I'm going to be using. So I'll be using my Dirija. I do have a video on Dirija out. It's a few months old. It's probably worth a redo. I'll probably remake my Dirija build pretty soon, but it's still completely valid. So Dirija with the Burst Laser Prime. All right, we'll go on solo. We'll go on Mott, and we'll check this guy out here.
Their rage is vehement, their focus impressive. Give them all.
The only thing I'll be pressing during the gameplay is my 3, which just gives me stagger immunity and some armor.
Life support has been cut off. They're trying to choke you out. Hold on. I'm sending auxiliary life support.
And, you know, you don't have to spam only the combos that have force slashes. You're going to produce plenty of natural slashes, too. So, like, I could just go into the regular moveset here, and it'll be just as effective. So, don't focus, or don't only focus on what you pick for your stance on the force slash. Make sure you pick a stance you actually like the moveset of, too, you know? So a lot of melee weapons that we've done have hit about 1,000 to 1,200 kills. Only some kind of bad ones have not hit like over 900, but most have hit over 900. And I would say even most have hit over 1,000 really. So we're hoping this thing hits over 1,000. This is a pretty good weapon. I think that specific mod for this weapon maybe makes it a little bit more valid for non-melee focused builds to still do like pretty good flat damage without a primer. It's just for a actual melee build, condition overload is just always going to win because you're always going to be priming, or you should always be priming if you're playing correctly. Even if you do it the dumb way like me with a friggin' Dirige that does it for you so you don't have to even think about it. If you do it for yourself, you could possibly be putting even more than 6 to 8 statuses. You know, there's people with builds out there that are like, oh, I put like 15 statuses on enemies. You know, you gotta jump through a lot of hoops for that, but you know, it's possible. It's up to you how willing you are to use externals to prime. If you just want to be lazy and use a Dirige, it's still 6 to 8 statuses though. Where he at? Where's he at? I'm gonna have to hit this guy normally, otherwise I'll jump over him with that weird with that weird attack. Did I lose my combo? I think I lost my combo. I gotta get it back here. Alright, I got him. I got him!
When you are ready.
And we're at 5 minutes, halfway through. We won't check the kills till at the end, and then we'll see where we're at. Yeah, I think Galvanized Steel is pretty good. It's going to lower everyone's crit chance by just a little bit, because I feel like it's going to make it on most builds in the game. So like every build in the game is just going to have a slightly lower crit chance. I feel like DE is trying to make it, or trying to make Melee Duplicate more valid. Because Melee Duplicate requires yellow crits for it to work appropriately. So, like, it wouldn't work on this build. We're still in red crits with this build. Orange and reds, mostly oranges, but... I think this weapon should easily hit over 1,000. I don't know how much over 1,000. A lot of the melee weapons, they hit around the same numbers. They hit like 1,100-ish, give or take a little bit. There hasn't really been one that's been like way over the others so far. Out of the ones I've done this testing with. There's some I've played with that I think might beat it, you know, way more than the others. But I haven't done like a 10-minute mot like I do here without externals with them. Ooh, I think I wasted my heavy there. I attacked without Tennokai. Heavy attacked without Tennokai. It comes back pretty quick though. I have bad reaction on my Tennokai. It sometimes like entices me to use the mod that you have 4 seconds to press the button. Not because that one's actually better for some weapons, just because I personally have bad reaction time. So like that would give me a full 4 seconds to press it. It's like the old man Tennokai mod.
If the Tenno wants true salvation, they will lay down their arms and wait for the baptism of my Yanis Ki.
We got 2 more minutes left. And then we will see the end result. I really like this one. I feel like the primary that I did the video on earlier this morning is a little bit of a miss. It's a bit of a miss for DE. I feel like they could have made it a little bit better. I really like its utility that it has a shield that makes you invincible basically in one direction. But the actual damage of it is pretty lackluster. I mean, this one though, this feels good. This feels good. I really like the rolling the dice, and sometimes you get like extra little effects on the weapon. Nothing that's going to make it way stronger or way, you know, or anything, but just nice little extra things. It's fun. It's a fun passive that I like. All right, 20 seconds left, and then we'll see the final kill number at the end. See, Dirigid just went down. That's the time where the Amanata pressure like could make up for itself. I just like he's up already. Like I barely finished my sentence and he's back up. So that's the only thing. Like they come back so quick nowadays. All right, that's it. That's it. Let's head to extraction, and then we'll check the kill number. 1,116. That is in line with a lot of other melee weapons. Like I said, most melee weapons, they hit at about 1,100. There hasn't really been one that's been way over, or I guess there have been a few that have been way under, but they're like weird ones, like gun blades. And weird gun blades, right? Like the gun blades that don't work well with melee influence, because sadly, on melee builds, you get a lot of your kills from melee influence, weirdly. So, if melee influence does not work appropriately for a build for some weird reason, like for one of the gun blades, for instance, you lose a lot of your kills because of it. So, because it works appropriately on this weapon is just in line with every other melee weapon, really.
You are a blade. You exist to strike. You strike to win.
So yeah, good, I mean, good weapon. Definitely worth building out. Is it way better than the other melees we've tested? No, not really. But it's got a cool passive. I really like the passive. It's got an augment that you could make a build that was ranged focused. Like, you know, you're going in, you still want a strong melee weapon, but you're not a melee build. So like you're not intending to prime things. Like you could make a kind of a build like that with Amanata pressure, and it would be okay. It wouldn't be as good as a full melee build, but it would still be okay. So yeah, that's the Amanata. If you guys liked it, consider giving the video a like. If you haven't subbed yet, consider subbing or tell me what I can do to earn your sub. And I hope you guys have an amazing day. All right, bye.